Hello all, and welcome to my video. I am looking at the advanced driving controls and features today of Racing World. In particular, I'm going to be using the Class 43 of the high-speed train in City 125 as an example, as a sort of intermediate example. The reason why I've chose that is because it's sort of not too easy to drive, but not too hard either. I could have used like 165, which is a single controller. I could have used a Class 40 or Class 45, which is a locomotive with far more advanced controls in the sense of older controls. The HST is a bit of an intermediate because you've got a mixture of both. So what the purpose of this video basically is to go through the advanced driving features of this train, drive the train, and also look at what the trackside equipment is and what the different noises and everything does. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get into the cab now, the HST. This is the HST cab, as most of you probably already aware of having played the game. Now, just to emphasise, when I use the driving controls of the HST, I use advanced manual control, so I actually move my components as best as I can with my cursor. So my train's due out at 10:10, it's 10:07, so I'm going to start getting set up. So I use all the safety features. So when I say safety features, that is your typical LCD, SD, which is your driver safety device, vigilance, and of course the automatic warning system. I'll go through what they are as we go along, but explain them as we go along. So first of all, I need to turn them on. So these switches here, I'll put the hood on. Now I'm using a keyboard. I'm on a PlayStation board, but I use a keyboard. F1 turns the hood on and off. As you can see, DSD isolation is isolate, so I can now turn that to off basically. And again, the DSD isolated, so I'll turn that. Right, okay, so setting up the cab, let's turn the lights on. You've got this little mimic panel there. This is called a mimic panel. As you can see, there's 4 lights. So if you just flick through the lights, so that will say that you've got your daylights or your night lights, they're your night lights. Then you have your tail lights, of course, and if you flip the other way, you've got your daylights. So we've got our day headlamp on. It's daytime, we've got our day headlamps on. Okay. Next, we need to set the train up. As per the tutorial that you can get, you have to turn on your master key. This is the master key here, this big chunky key there. Turn that on. Then you have to move the reverser, which is normally to off, to forward. You get that beep noise, that's the AWS acknowledgement. That's part of the setup. You just click the AWS button, or you can press, if you've got a PS4, you press circle. I'm not sure what the equivalent Xbox is. I think it's Q on a keyboard for using the PC on the keyboard. I also turn on my lights on the instrument panel. Just clicked it up a bit. It's a rocker gauge. It uses a gauge, so you just call it rocker circuitry. So that's that one. So at the moment, I'm going to put this is the DRA, which I'm going to put on because I've got a red signal. You don't have to put that on, but I just do. I'll go through all the bits and controls as we go along. Just going to concentrate on getting the train moving once we're ready to go. Obviously, we've got our speedometer there, air brake, the bar, and where the brakes are, which at the moment is on full. So I might just slip that down to step 2, or what we got now. Hold. Got hold written on that. I don't know if you can see that. It says hold, that initial hold where it's got the steps. So there we go, it's 10:10. It tells me to unlock the doors. So there's no door control buttons on the loco, so you have to do it using the menu. Signals now come off. So I'm going to turn the DRA off. Now, as you probably noticed, I've unlocked the doors, but there is no counter. This is actually a session. This is a session that I've created. So for some reason there's a bug where this doesn't tell you to, it doesn't have a counter on. But also, it just tells you to go once everyone's loaded, and tells you to shut doors either. I'm going to go F1, I'm going to wait for my acknowledgement. I try and play it as realistic as I can, which means also using the guard to driver buzzer communications, as you'll see in a minute. And this train's express to London as well, so there's no stops. As you can see, my brake has dropped down to bar 2, I've dropped to initial. there you go. It says I can go. I didn't hear the point beep. Oh, that one's for Paddy. I select lock my doors, otherwise I'll go. Okay, and pretend the guard's happy that the doors are all shut, so that's 2 from the guard, and I'll respond with 2 to say that we're ready to go. And take the brakes off. Just get ready to let the brake gauge drop down, look, and then we can start opening up the train. As we've got a dry. So, oh, my doors are shut. That quick stopping noise was my door shutting. I've left the door open. It shuts automatically on these. You can't open them once they're on the move. Yeah, so as we are, I forgot what I was going to say now. So I'm just going to drop the power up a little bit. This is also a 2+8 formation. You don't get a 2+8 formation as default on the consoles, but because it's a scenario, you can have a 2+8 HST, which does slightly change the dynamics. Just easing out there. I'm just going to, as it's dry, so that was it, as it's dry and it's sunny, I can actually open them up. You have to be careful. The new features of Train Sim 2 has given you a degen, which, trust me, works. But for the nature of this video, I've decided to just have a dry day. So it's 40, and then as you can see, that's a 60 PSR, that's permanent speed restriction. You can also get told what the PSRs are using the markers there. Now, be aware though, is one of the things that you do have in this game is variable speed. So we'll look, that's 125 now. We're already open anyway. So variable speeds is each train can do different speeds, and they have 2 different speeds on the boards. Unfortunately, the game doesn't account for the traction and the variable speed. So unless you know what train you're driving and what variable speed there is, it will tell you to go at the maximum. Like for instance, it tells freight trains to go at the maximum speed, which they shouldn't be doing. So that beeping noise, sorry, was the vigilance. So that happens every 60 seconds if you do not touch any controls. And what I did there is I pushed the DSD pedal. The other way of being able to cancel it is moving any of the controls. You can also cancel it as well. And I've got, what's that? And that always seems to happen. So AWS magnet has gone off. And obviously we need to cancel it using the AWS. It always seems to happen there, even as a green signal. So I don't know what that's actually for. I think it might be for a PSR reminder. So you do get an AWS acknowledgement for permanent speed restriction reminder. So that's basically like, oh, in the next mile, the speed is being reduced. Okay. So we're coasting along quite nicely at the moment. Probably going to hear the vigilant quite a lot. So what I'll do is I'll rest my cursor right at the bottom of the screen so I can just quickly drop down. Now I can actually just manually keep pressing it, and that will reset the clock. So this is solid cutting. Just got the AWS magnet, which is that yellow thing in the middle is the AWS magnet, the automatic warning system magnet. That uses the signal to replicate what signal, as in the same signal, comes into the cab. That chime means you've got a green signal. Any of that horn noise you heard earlier, which I had to use the AWS signal to cancel, it means you've got an adverse signal. So that'll happen on a double yellow or a single yellow or a red. So there's an AWS, you see that sign then, the upside down triangle with 40 and an arrow. That's to say that the junction that's coming up ahead is, to traverse the junction, is 40 miles an hour. Now we're not traversing that junction today, as you can see, we had a green aspect. Some of the signals have what they call feathers. You should see on this next, I think this next signal should happen. If you just make out that black line that's pointing towards the left, what would happen is, if we were going to traverse the junction, that would be white lights, 5 or 6 white lights would fill that black arrow, and that is basically indicating to you that you're traversing this junction to go onto the relief lines. Approaching Twyford at a rather lacklustre 96 miles an hour. Now, not because I took it a bit steady out of Reading, but to me, I've personally, real life experience, HSTs coming out of Reading were probably hitting well over a ton by now. So this is Twyford. It's quite bizarre how Twyford's designed because the fast lines actually swerve through the platform, whereas the relief lines, which are 90 mile an hour max, or you stop straight on. Also at Twyford, the line from Henley-on-Thames trails in the up direction. Now you may have seen a train leave as the start of the tutorial. That was the 10:05 all stations to Slade. Or was it Hayes Park? I can't remember. But it looks like we're going to catch that train on, because there's a red signal on the relief line there, so that tells me that train's done its stop at Twyford and it's powering its way now to make towards Maidenhead. Just approaching, maybe not, that was a red signal over the Protected Junction. This is Ruscombe Junction. It's quite a high speed junction. We don't traverse this in the game at all, I've never known to traverse it at all, but it's quite a high speed junction, it's about 70 miles an hour. Now, depending on what time tower service you use, you may at times see adverse signals, you might start slowing down or speed up or whatever. It does happen depending on what service you use. But for the most part, this train I'm doing now should be, as far as I can remember, because I'm programming, it should be pretty straightforward travelling to London without no major issues. I know the one in front does get adverse signals on the approach to Hayes and Arlington because there's a train crossing over in front of it, but this one shouldn't. As we go between Twyford and Maidenhead, gone through the Waltham Common area, we're doing 115 miles an hour, which, yeah, I'm sure by now even the 2% HSTs would be doing 125 in real life. But hey, so that train there was my first departure at Paddington. I left at 10 o'clock. We left at 10:10, so that's already 10 minutes plus the 8 minutes. So it took 18 minutes to get from London to here. Pretty good going. Unless you saw it, if you came to it, it was a 2% as well. Nearing 120 now. As I've called before in other episodes of this, I mean, I like the new sounds that they've brought to the GWE, both the HST or the MTU, or the HST itself, the MTU engine sounds have been vastly improved, as has the Class 166 and 166 has been lovely. It sounds absolutely gorgeous. It's such a massive difference. The only thing that still bugs me about all the routes is the noise of the rails, noise of the flanges and stuff. The Isle of Wight, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's that stopping train there, just about to stop at Maidenhead. Don't get me wrong, the Isle of Wight is a nice little route, and I'm really, pleased with Rivet and what they've done, but the noise, the sound is awful. There we go, we're just starting to approach 125 miles an hour, we've gone through Maidenhead. The trading line from Bourne End joins the Italy. So it's 125 basically all the way to just after Ealing drops to 85. Then it drops to 50 on the approach to Level Grove, then it drops to 40 from Westbourne Park, then just before rolling into London it is 25. The station that's approaching now is Tappaway. Oh yeah, that's a 10 o'clock contract as well. That just eats the power off a little bit as I'm now speeding. Oh, there's my 10:05. Paddington's ready. So I've tried to design as many trains as I can. The actual main busyness is actually London and approaching London. Obviously, the majority of trains do depart between 10 and 10:15, so a lot of the trains that will be terminated by the time this one will get there. But, you know, still get to see some. This is Burnham Station. So we're just a couple of miles away from the Slade. Also, by fettling with my throttle, it keeps my vigilance at bay, because obviously I'm moving the controls so it knows I'm still alive. Just checking the gradient. I thought it is a drop towards London, especially towards Slade. In fact, Burnham's that close to Slade. The Slade Business Park is actually in Burnham. Just got to slip the power off slightly. That is an AWS reminder for the 40 crossover after the Platte Junction. We're not going to traverse that, but for some reason the magnet isn't suppressed. So it goes off every time, even though we're not going to traverse that junction. So at Dolphin Junction, it's 40 mile an hour, which is the junction coming up. It's 40 mile an hour to cross over onto the relief line, and that's what that magnet was for. That's what that AWS acknowledgement was for. And as you can see, it's a junction signal. You see the feathers, which are to tell you that you're going over. First stopping semi-fast ready. Back left at 10 o'clock as well from London. That's Dolphin Junction. Again, another junction we don't really traverse much. I think I've done it once or twice with a freight train, but again, a lot of the junctions don't get used. It's such a shame that we don't have the power and the scenario design to be able to create regulation points, hold points, you know, pinch points and stuff like that. This, we're approaching Langley. Outside the train. As you can see, a lovely 2+8 formation. A welcome addition to the console. You can also get 2+7 and 2+8 formations if you do the trick, which I have put a video on. Someone discovered the trick where you can actually get the Greenford services, which are not on the an SB1010 service, which is not on my which are not on the console. You do lose HST, but you gain a multitude of 166 services. But also the HST services you do get can be 2+7, 2+8, 2+7 I think, and 2+8 formations. Or it might just be 2+7, I'm not sure. So that's a little trick. I have got a video, if you want to look for my YouTube channel, you'll find a video how to get more services on the GWE. Oh, oops, didn't have the thingy set, so I've had to use my circle for that one. But normally I was reaching for my power cable thing, but I didn't have a cursor on, because when you go out in an external view, it resets your cursor. To put the cursor on a PlayStation, you push down the right stick. You just tap it down. This will be over. Yeah, no, that's not over. It's West Drayton. Oh, it must have gone through over and I not realised. So this is West Drayton. You see that signal there? That is a split signal, split aspect. So the bottom one indicates is for you if you're traversing the junction at the next signal. So as you can see, the next signal has got a split feather. Now, your signal is actually the top one on that previous signal. However, again, the magnet hasn't been suppressed, so it's an acknowledge. If you're driving along on the relief line, even if you've got a green, it still wants you to acknowledge it. Unfortunately, so yeah, a few conditions. Other things that are missing from this are flashing greens, because some of the junctions is high speed. There's no flashing greens, or flashing yellows. Sorry. You do have the green battery repeaters, which is good. Oh, speeding again. Let's drop the power off. So now we're under the wires, as it were, at Paddington. So the wires come from Airport Junction or Heathrow. Now you'll see a glitch here. If you just have a look, that 377, which is the Harlington fast terminator, is stuck over the junction. So any trains on the up relief, I look at the novelty train, I thought I'd put it there. It does move, but it doesn't move until later. But it doesn't go. It won't go anywhere anyway, because that Harlington train is stuck in its way. But yeah, so that's a little glitch which DTG need to fix. As you also noticed, it was a 377 pushed over from the ECW. I used that because I had masqueraded as a 387 as we're under the wires. So it's a bit of a sort of what-if scenario with that one. Fast approaching South Horn, and we're doing 125 on the absolute nose. Drop it down. As you can see, we've started to see more and more trains as we got closer to London. Cruising along at a steady 125. That's a safe full terminator, because you can't get to Hayes, so that's a safe full. I've also got a safe full fast terminator, I think. Can't remember. Well, I've done that many scenarios, I can't remember where I am. Now approaching Hanwell Viaduct. And of course Hanwell itself, which doesn't have a down slope platform. I don't think it's sorry, down fast. I don't think the up fast is accessible anyway. So the left hand side is the line towards Greenford, coming from that direction. Also the carriage sidings, handling carriage sidings. As we approach West Drayton, and the line coming trailing in from the left into the up relief and down is from Greenford. West Royston. So I'm going to power off because we've got an 85 PSR in about a mile and a half, which it doesn't tell you about. As we approach Ealing Broadway, we've got another service there, we're just about to overtake. So I'm just going to start putting some brake on. So we are approaching an 85 PSR, which is just on the approach to Acton Main Line. So as you can see now, we're approaching Acton Yard on the left hand side. Oh no, it's 100. What do you think it was 85? It's 100. That's fine because you dropped that to 50 anyway, so I'm going to, I've just left the brake off now, I'm just going to let it roll. So this is Acton Main Line. Again, there's no access to the, although there is a platform, there's no access to the up fast platform, and there's none on the down anyway, down fast. Just approaching Old Oak. So yeah, it's 100 for an HST between just for Acton Main Line to just pass under the just after just past Labrador Road basically, just after the Common. But to be fair, I've got to slow down for the 50 anyway, so it's fine. There is a PSR magnet here. Oh god, everything's going off at once, but I've got it. That's fine. Yeah, that's the other thing you've got to be careful of. You've got the vigilance, you could have the vigilance going off as well. At the same time as having to cancel the magnet. So I'm just going to put a bit of braking as we approach the 50th London Grove. It's just past this bridge, this flyover. It's not too far away. As I was taking it steady anyway, it's not been too much of a hardship to slow the train down. Brakes are pretty responsive on a HST anyway. There we go. So that's 30 over 50. So what that means is that freight trains or restricted trains have to go 30 miles an hour and anything else can go 50. So we're just approaching Lambert Grove, the lines from Alder Common Joy, mostly Joy, and there's a bit of crossover junction here as well. I'm doing what, 49. I'm not. You slow down for the 40 at Westbourne Park anyway, so I'm not going to bother trying to speed up to 15 south, which is absolutely no point. But what I'm going to do is just hover over the brake. My vigilance is likely to go off in a minute, and I might just give it a quick nudge just to. Get a bit closer. It's 3 aspect signalling, even though it's LEDs, it's 3 aspect signalling. So the difference between 4 and 3, 4 aspect is where you get the green, the double yellow, the single yellow, and the red. 3 aspect is where you get a green, a yellow, and a red, basically. So 3 aspect, which is hence why you've got the single LED lights. So just approaching Westbourne Park. 40 mile an hour PSR just started just after the signal. The next signal has to be either a red or a yellow. If it's a green, you've got a problem. It's the next, because they signal into the station. These signals also have a theatre indicator to tell you what platform you go into. It's a number just above the signal. This side of the magnet we'll need to acknowledge. As you can see, the sun. Oh, by the way, yeah, the sunflower. So we're going into platform 4. So that is the sunflower. So if it's got a yellow and a black background, it means you've had to cancel. You've had to acknowledge it, which is a reminder, obviously, for any adverse acknowledgements you had to do. Right, it's 25 as we approach London, so let's get a bit of brake off. He's literally as wrong to London. There we go. Lovely. So we're the train, we're 10 o'clock train, which is what I spawned into. So yeah, just as another sort of thing, I had to spawn into that train, which is at 10 o'clock, to then come into this train so that all the trains moved. If I had spawned into this train at 10:05, all the trains would have been stood. Because you have to be spawned in to the time all the trains depart. So the 377s have all arrived in from Hayes and Harlington and Southall. Oh, and then drifting on. A steady stop there. It's a steady stop. And there we go. We're here. We're all done. Look at that. 500 points. Lovely. So now I'll quickly show it before it disappears and kicks off. I'll just quickly turn off everything. If you are demobilising, turn everything back off, because if you try to drive from the other end, the brakes won't come off. Trust me. There we go. Everything should be all working. So you should be able to, and obviously the tail lamps Right, so there you go. That's basically how to drive a HST with a bit more advancement, safety systems all added on, bit explanation of some of the track furniture, railway furniture, signalling system, how it works. So I hope you found this video useful. I'm going to try and do different trains and different routes, of course, because obviously each route has its own little four boils and things. But I think the GWE is a nice example. You've got a nice train that you can drive, and I think it's one that we're all common with. And I think we're still learning, aren't we? And also, there's a couple of things about the scenario designer you may not have known either, which I've made to throw in for good measure. So thanks for joining, and I will speak to you soon.